Follow me already.
Hey everybody, JuanMakes here. A little different pace of video tonight. I actually had some cleaning and some upgrades that I needed to finish on my P1P that's been converted to a P1S. So I'm going to disassemble everything, do a quick cleaning, and upgrade the last couple of parts that needed to be upgraded before I put everything back together. As you can see, the drag chain here is very saggy and is just kind of wore out. So this was one that I 3D printed a long time ago when I very first upgraded my P1P to a P1S, and just a few extra upgrades that I really needed to do and just never got around to. So I decided, instead of taking the entire cable chain and all that stuff apart and the cord to the tool head, I was going to wait until a later date when I needed to do so, and this just happens to be that time. So you're going to see me take everything apart here, remove all the screws from the back. Most of these are just simple Torx screws you can use with any of the Torx bits that you happen to have laying around. You'll see me use a little electric screwdriver that I got off the TikTok shop, and then a couple of other tools that I got with some other printers. So just going to go through here, remove all these screws, take this back panel completely off. And then the heatsink needed to be upgraded. The P1P's heatsink is slightly different than the P1S. There's an extra fan that goes on the side, and didn't realize it at the time when I was swapping everything out that I put the incorrect one back on, so I decided to do that too. I'm also going to remove the poop chute here and do some cleaning, just with everything out of the way. It just makes it a lot easier to get to all the stuff on the inside and in the back. So now I'm just feeding the cable to the tool head up and out of the way so that I can get to it really easily. I'm going to swap out the heat sinks. As you can see here, I removed the thermal paste off the back of the original one and apply it to the P1S heatsink, which happens to be a horizontal heatsink. Just make sure to take your time with this. We're just going to get it put back in place. This is a bit finicky. These are really small Allen head screws or Torx screws, and they're just kind of a pain in the butt to line up. So once you get it in, you leave the first one loose, and then you're going to install the second screw, which is also kind of a pain in the butt to get to. I would definitely tell anybody looking at getting a P1P versus a P1S, just go with the P1S. All this stuff's already upgraded and you don't have to do all this. So I'm removing the 4 screws on the back of the print head to remove the cover, and then this will give me access to the rear board and all of the wiring back here as well. So we're going to disconnect this one, take all 3 screws out, and then we're going to just very gently slide this out of the way. We're going to remove the 2 cables up top here, and then that's going to give me full access to the back one, which we're also going to remove, which is what connects to the print head here. So I'm just going to remove this connector and the cord and everything that goes along with it. And what I have here are just the replacement parts. This is a upgraded cable and drag chain that came with the P1S upgrade, and you're just going to feed this through. Now there is a small channel on the inside of this. It is kind of a pain in the butt again to get the tool head back on the board. It is very important when plugging the back plug on the tool head to make sure you align it properly, otherwise it will not sit back in its position, and you can also get an error code, which I did get, and I ended up having to take this all back apart because I did not have it plugged in properly. So just a word of advice, when doing this, I would definitely start from that bottom screw and just very carefully make sure that you have everything plugged in correctly. These upper 2 actually plug in pretty easily. You'll kind of feel them seat into place, and then you're going to add your drag chain and feed your cable right back through this and to the back part of the printer. Pretty simple. It just kind of presses into place, which is really nice. And then we're going to change camera views here after I put the cover on the back. Just going to replace these 4 screws very quickly. And again, these were pretty simple. They don't need to be torqued down all crazy, just tight enough to hold. You're going to feed this cord all the way down and through the main channel in the back, and then it's only going to plug into one spot up at the very top. Make sure you leave a little slack in your cord. You're going to feed your poop chute back up where it belongs, and we're going to put the 2 longer screws right back where they belong. Pretty simple here. And then this is our filament feed tube. This is just a guide here that goes in the top. It just kind of snaps into place, and we're going to feed the PTFE tube through. And then this is actually the part that was a little tricky. I actually struggled with this the longest out of everything, is just lining everything up. You just want to make sure you're not pinching any of the wires or anything like that as you're kind of pressing this back into place. It's actually going to seat all the way back in the corner and then kind of snap into place. You'd have to kind of press it in and it'll just snap into position, and then it'll hold where it's supposed to hold. But this also holds the drag chain in place, and this is kind of what keeps it up so that it's not dragging on the linear rods here. And then we're going to place the front fan head cover back in place, snap in the connector, and back to the back, and then we're just going to do everything in reverse order. Now you do have to keep your eyes open here when taking all the screws out of the back. Some of them are actually a coarse thread screw, and some of them are a fine thread screw. All the fine thread screws are going to primarily go around the outside edge, but they're going to screw into the other metal connectors, and then there is one down in the very bottom center that is actually a coarse thread screw. And I just kind of skipped over that one for now, but I did come back and place the correct screw in that position. But these, again, very simple. We don't need to torque everything down super crazy, just tight enough to hold. Again, we're just holding a panel onto the side of some plastic. So obviously the printer does vibrate quite a bit, so you do want to make sure these are snug and that they're not going to let anything rattle. They're pretty simple. And this is the AMS hub that goes on the back, and there's two longer silver screws that go here in the corners. We're going to plug it back in, run our PTFE tube up to the connector, and get ready to put everything back into its position. So I was just kind of cleaning up the countertop just before this and just lining everything up where it belongs, and reconnecting the AMS to all of the connectors in the back, plugging in the power, and then you're going to see me just boot this guy back up, and we're ready to roll.
Like, follow, and share for more.